Welcome to Miniatures Rundown. I'm Kevin, and today we're going to deal with some problems. So, in this series, we've been talking about running your own gaming group. With 11th edition just having come out for 40K, it's probably pretty pertinent that a lot of people are wanting to get a bunch of people together on a regular basis to play. This will be part 2. Part 1 is already released, and if you want to check it out, you can check it out right here. I highly recommend that you do so. Gives a little bit more context to what we're going to talk about today. So, I'm going deep with the hard stuff today because it is probably one of the most lethal things for a gaming group is to have problem people run amok in your group. Now, I want to preface a few things because I don't think necessarily classifying a person as a problem is a healthy way to look at things, and I don't think that it's helpful for your group either. Problem people take many different kinds of forms, and any social setting at all is at one point bound to have one or more of them. And this is not unique to wargaming, this is not unique to miniatures, but we're going to be speaking with this on the subject in the context of miniatures because of some of the unique things that kind of encompass this hobby and the people that we tend to deal with. As a group leader, whether it's just yourself or as part of a team, you're going to have to decide what to do with people when they act out of line. And it's going to happen. It's just unfortunate, but there is just a propensity for people to act poorly and or mistakenly when in group settings. And let's be honest with ourselves, we're in a hobby where the social graces are not always entirely present. And yeah, I'm guilty of that too. Being able to recognize when somebody is disrupting the group's finely balanced ecosystem and knowing how to deal with it, I think is going to be an incredibly important part of making sure the long-term health of your group stays healthy. And once again, we're talking about people. 9 times out of 10, a person who is causing problems is not somebody who's doing it on purpose. They're not doing it with the express purpose of disrupting the group or of making it hard to play the games that you want to play. Typically, it's because they just either have a conflicting personality or it's because they don't know what kind of social expectations come in a group setting like this, or they just have their own ideas about what makes the game fun and are not receptive to other people having fun in a way that they don't care for. So I really want to approach this with a little bit of tact and a little bit of gentleness, because at the end of the day, they are people. I think that it's safe to say that for the most part, we'd want to see everyone be able to participate in the group and have a good time. However, we know that personalities can clash. We know that people can have bad days. We know people can have other issues that make it hard for them and to interact with people in large group settings like a gaming club, like what we're talking about here. So I'll give some examples. I think one of the biggest things is that there is kind of a stigma between the perception of competitive players and casual players. I think that's a really dated look at how people approach these games. I don't think that that's by itself is an important distinction. I think that there are people who adopt a toxic attitude in the competitive scene, and I think there are people who develop a toxic attitude in the casual scene as well. So what does that look like? What does that toxic personality or toxic attitude look like? It looks like when someone is trying to convince other people that they are doing the hobby wrong. And that is true in both casual and competitive circles. In competitive circles, it's very much when a player who is more competitively minded is trying to impose that type of attitude upon other players in the gaming group. For instance, this person is playing what's hot in the meta right now. They're, utilizing the latest tactics, latest exploits, and making other players, upset. It's not just by playing those things, though. It's by kind of imposing the attitude that that's the right way to play, that that's the only way to play, and that's the only thing that matters. And I just don't agree with that. And for those kind of people, I think that it's important to remind them it's just toy soldiers. We're all here to have a good time. And not everyone needs to play the latest thing. Not everyone needs to play latest meta in order to be a part of this hobby. Now, I think that's kind of controversial is that I also think the same thing is true for casual players as well. Specifically, casual players that also have their own brand of toxicity, which is when they look at the competitive side and they're convinced that they're doing it wrong. I don't think that's a healthy way to look at the game either. I think everyone gets to enjoy the toys in the way that they want. I don't believe just because someone doesn't believe that they've built their army in a way that doesn't fit the lore, doesn't fit the fluff, doesn't fit their vision of what that army should look like is a wrong way to play. And that their way of which, they've read a novel that their army was built this way, that has this character, that has this structure, that's the way that you should play Warhammer, that's the way that you should engage with this hobby. And that if people are not engaging with it like that, then they're doing it wrong. I think that's also a pretty unhealthy way to look at the game. And for those people, I tend to remind them that everyone enjoys the game differently. And the aspect that which they enjoy it, which is playing to the lore, enjoying the satisfaction of building an army that reflects the lore or reflects what their vision of what that army should look like, isn't the same level of enjoyment that the other person has, where that person enjoys the challenge of playing to the meta and playing in a competitive setting. That there's nothing inherently wrong with that attitude of enjoying the nuts and bolts mathematics side of the game. Everyone gets to have their preferences. And both sides are not inherently wrong. They're only wrong when they insist that other people are enjoying the hobby wrong. And I sometimes think that there's just gentle reminders that are needed to bring that to the fore. My local players are probably sick of me saying, and I say it often, and I usually make sure to say it before events, is remember, guys, we're all just playing with toy soldiers. This isn't important. This doesn't really matter. Nobody's winning life-changing prizes or setting themselves off on a course in which their life is going to vastly change because they won 4 games of Warhammer. It's not going to happen. And usually that reminder is enough to make everyone behave in accordance with just getting together and having a good time. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Sometimes you have people that come in and they want to be purposely disruptive. And this is where things get really tense. As you can see, my attitude here, not super jovial at this because this is one of the least favorite things of mine of running a gaming group, but as something that you will on occasion have to confront. When it comes to people who come in and they're purposely mean to other players and they are purposely disruptive to other people's games. They are talk down to other people, bully other people. Like, you would think that in a room full of adults that those schoolyard antics aren't really a thing, but it does happen. And it's really unfortunate when it does. And the problem is that in a gaming group, one person like that can ruin it for everybody else. And one person like that can drive people away and slowly kill your gaming group, or quickly kill it too, depending on how bad they are. And it's up to you and your leadership, if you have partners that you're running the group with, or if it's just you, and especially if it's just you, well, it's on you to take that person aside and say, hey, you need to shape up. You can't do this. You can't say this to people. You can't tell people that their stuff doesn't, you can't tell people that their paint doesn't look good. You can't tell people that they're not playing well. You can't tell them that. And, give them a chance to apologize and to course correct. I do believe in second chances, even for people who are acting particularly egregious. And if they don't, then, you have to take it upon yourself to be the person to say, well, then you're not welcome here anymore and you can't play with us. And that really sucks. It really doesn't feel good to ever say stuff like that. Now, and of course, there's also instances too where people are come into a social situation, a group situation like this, and they act in ways that are offensive or that are demeaning towards other people that aren't related to the game. And in those cases, that's kind of another way you need to immediately pull somebody aside and say, hey, you can't do this. You continue to do this, we're going to ask you to leave. And if they respond to that with aggression and standing on that, they can say whatever they want or do whatever they want, then you're just going to have to ask them to leave. Because people like that will kill your gaming group. 100%. It is that those people are absolute poison to a gaming group that hopefully welcomes everybody. But really, most commonly, those things, those last two examples I gave of people who are mean or bullying or offensive, those are the rarer cases. Really, the most common cases of quote unquote problem people is people just being poor sports. We've seen it. If you've been in this hobby for any amount of time, when you played in tournaments or if you played in public gaming groups, you've almost certainly seen it. And there's probably people who are infamous in your gaming group for being unpleasant to play with. And the most common reason for that is people just exhibiting poor sportsmanship. What does that mean? That means that people are either poor losers, poor winners, or they don't deal with bad luck or adversity very well. People that, for instance, whenever they roll badly, they just kind of curse their dice or curse their opponent. Like that kind of behavior, well, every once in a while, it's totally human to look at your dice, see all those ones and be like, how? Why? But for every time a roll doesn't go your way and you're getting upset about it, I think that's probably a time where you as a player would need some self-reflection. Or if you see somebody acting like that constantly in your gaming group where and it's not like a jovial look at like, haha, it's so funny that my luck is so bad, but like really getting upset that things just aren't going their way in the game. And it happens to them a lot, that you really do need to take that person aside and say, hey, just remember, this is just a game. It's okay when things don't go your way. And, give them an opportunity to improve. Give them an opportunity to self-reflect on that. And most times they'll look at that and say, oh, I didn't realize that what I was doing was making other people enjoy the game less and enjoy the match that we're playing less. Or another thing that you run into too is people who will complain about people's armies or complain about people's army rules or unit rules or whatever. It's it can be any of those things. It's not really specific to any of those, but people who are constantly negative and complain about the things that other people play in the gaming group. And I think that is, while it's okay to have grievances and it's okay to have opinions about stuff, it's not okay to make other people feel bad about the army that they choose to play or the miniatures they choose to play with or the rules they choose to play. I think that you need to, in those instances, also step in. And sometimes that's not a situation where you take somebody aside and tell them to not do that because, everyone is entitled to their opinion. But I think that it's helpful in those cases to kind of offer some counter to that. Like if someone says, oh, Space Marines are really broken during this edition and man, they just have this, this, and this, and it's just awful. The most common thing that I do to kind of diffuse that is I say, yeah, it's pretty cool that they can do all that stuff. Like they can do this, and like that allows them to access this, and kind of flipping it outside, turning it into a positive. I think, and especially in the context of Games Workshop games, if we played these for any length of time, it's not a surprise that they're not super well balanced. The classic meme of the guy on the gallows with the other guy and saying, first time. I think that's very similar to when people complain about Games Workshop and balance. there's a time and a place for that. And if a couple people are having a discussion and it's pretty mutual about like, hey, they really don't like this, I think that's fine. But I don't think people should be made to feel bad about the army in which they chose and spent time loving and painting, and playing and studying and getting good at. I think that everyone should be empowered to feel good about the hobby, and specifically their hobby. And other people impinging on that enjoyment is something that can slowly poison a gaming group. Really, though, I think the best long-term solution for any of this is to help foster a community that is generally positive, where people are generally supportive of each other, where people hold each other up and prop each other up and encourage each other. And oftentimes when you make sure that that's the attitude that is prevalent throughout your community, that I often find that people who have negative attitudes or who come in to cause disruption or who come in and want to make other people miserable, they tend not to just last long on their own. They tend to leave because they're not getting the validation. They're not getting what they want out of those interactions because the group just doesn't support that kind of behavior. Or people come in and they see it and they change. And then you have a new player with a newly adopted attitude. And I've seen that happen a couple times too. I think that there's a lot of room in this hobby for everybody. And that will often mean you have some conflicting personalities. And you often have people who have different ideas about what is and isn't fun. And that's fine. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion, and even a different opinion, and even an unpopular opinion. That's totally okay. The important thing, though, is that not letting those opinions and actions poison the group and make gathering and enjoying the hobby less fun. And as a community leader, it's on you to keep an eye on those things. And it's on you to, when you see a problem happening, when you see that a table is really tense, to walk over to that table and ask them, hey, what's going on? Not being accusatory or, terse about it, but, very friendly and approachable and just like, what's going on? And then from there, like, you can usually diffuse whatever's going on. But it takes a little bit of courage, and it takes initiative to be able to engage in those difficult conversations. And I think that while difficult and uncomfortable at times, there are times I've had to talk with players on the phone and have a discussion about, what their attitude and how they're affecting people around them. While those things are uncomfortable and difficult, I think they're important. I think that kind of slow poison of negativity and of not even like overt bullying, but just like of an overall negative attitude is a slow poison to a gaming group. And I think addressing all those things and having the courage to address those things is extremely important. The great thing about it, though, and the thing that I've discovered over many years, is that if you do it a few times and you have the difficult conversations and you do the hard thing consistently, and once again, back to consistency from the first video, but you keep doing those things, eventually it sets a standard for your group. And the people that your group attracts will be the people that you as a group leader kind of earned. Do the challenging thing, do the hard thing, and be watchful, be vigilant. Groups like this and good groups that are welcoming and that enable this hobby are not easy to find. So if you've created something special, you've got to be willing to defend it. What kind of problem players have you had in your groups before? Let us know in the comments. And if you like this content and want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and check out our Patreon. Every dollar helps, and every little bit helps us bring this kind of content to you. Thank you, and happy gaming.